I'm Joseph Rosales, and welcome to Business in the New Normal. I'm here with my co-host Ike Devji and our guest Tisha Marie Pelletier, who we'll be talking to in a little bit. Thank you for joining us. And as you know, our objective here is to provide information, balanced information, either left or right, so people can be more informed about business in the new normal. And we want to help people not just survive, but thrive in this very challenging environment that we find ourselves in. And Ike, how are you this morning?
Good, thank you, Joseph. It's good to be
Good.
with you again.
Good. Well, thank you. Ike, you are an asset protection attorney, and people that are following us know that already, and they know that you have a deep background in all the things relative to law and asset protection. What's going on in your world? What are you seeing this week?
A lot of different things, both on the business side and on the personal side. We are still continuing to see a lot of pain with business owners, especially those in a couple of channels, specifically retail and restaurants, obviously have been adversely affected. We have a number of smaller real estate investors who are having trouble, obviously, because they have commercial properties like strip malls and smaller shopping centers where the businesses that rent from them are struggling. We are seeing reports in other parts of the country. For instance, I think this morning there was a report out that small business bankruptcies in New York have almost doubled. And a lot of those are limited to a couple of specific industries. So we have folks who are contacting us for help and looking for solutions to negotiate with their landlords. Landlords are looking to negotiate with banks. And there is a chain here. It's a very fragile business ecosystem that people are trying to balance. So that's one issue. Demographically and on a personal level, for personal planning level for people out there, we are seeing reports, just as we did during the last recession, that we have the highest number of millennials moving back home with their parents since the recession, the last recession.
Wow.
So that means that many Americans, even affluent ones, are going to have to adjust their living situation, their balance their budgets, adjust their lifestyle, and to figure out how to accommodate these folks that might need to come back home while they are unemployed during this extended period, how they're going to be provided health care. We have lots of folks wondering how they're going to be able to maintain their health insurance or what options are available since they've lost their health insurance along with their employment. So those are a few issues that we're seeing where we are having a whole bunch of people that are concerned about possible changes in the estate tax regime. We currently have a exemption limit that is about $24 million for a married couple. That's the amount that you can currently, under current federal law, pass to your heirs without any kind of estate tax or so-called death tax exposure. And that's a great problem to have. That's a big number for most Americans, right? So the people who have that problem, or even the people who have that high net worth that are 20 million or above, are obviously concerned about the election and the possibility that the current law, which is set to sunset in 2026, may change and it will not be in their favor. But that leaves a whole bunch of us out, right? That $20 million plus net worth level, as I said, it's a good problem to have. But now people in the more mass affluent category who are quote unquote only worth a few $1,000,000, the working millionaires out there, which America has a very large number of, are also looking at the prospect of the law being changed and that exemption amount being lowered even sooner than 2026 as a possible result of the election. So a lot of those folks are looking at strategies that are available to them now to make wealth transfers to take advantage of our current big exemption while they can, in case there's a change in the future. And while there is no crystal ball that we can look at where we have a guarantee of what that number will be, there are a lot of people who, especially in the estate planning industry across the country, believe that it is coming down. So we have more mass affluent folks looking at estate planning issues that they've ignored because it wasn't their problem before, but it may be after November 3rd.
Wow. It never ceases to amaze me how many layers there are to this situation. As each layer is unfolded, we see something else, from kids in school or not, to parents that can't go back to work because their kids are not in school, to healthcare, to retirement, to banking, to fraud, to all the things that are happening that we talk about on this program. It's interesting because that creates so much uncertainty for people, and sometimes when people are uncertain, they freeze up, they stand still, they don't move left or right, they kind of just stay where they are and hope that something else changes. And I know that we're constantly reminding our clients that with every challenge like this, there's an opportunity to excel, to exceed, to grow, to change, to pivot. It's amazing how many people we're seeing doing that. We're interviewing people on this program that have pivoted successfully from a good business to a great business, and that's a choice that we all get to make. So as we always talk about on this program, we want to inform people, we want to prepare people so they can make better choices. And so they don't just get frozen like a deer in the headlights. What do I do? What do I do? We want people to move forward. And I know Tisha's going to have some great ideas for us in a little bit about how people pivot, how they rebrand, how they create a new message for themselves so people will respond to that message and make a better choice in their business. Because this isn't all about business, it's about life. But in the end, our business is a big part of our life for most of us. It provides our lifestyle. So I'm always surprised, and I don't know if you knew this, Tisha, but I first met Ike back in January before the whole pandemic unfolded, and he did a session on a radio program that we were both on, a business radio program, and he talked about the 9 things that can happen during a pandemic economically. And within months, all 9 of those things came true, all of them. And I'd like to think that Ike has a crystal ball on his desk that he sees all this stuff, but he's an experienced business attorney and he sees what happens and he knows and can project. And so it's both scary and reassuring that we can project some of these things that are going to happen if we're paying attention. But one of the things we don't want to do, and I tell my wife this all the time, we all get tired. We're fatigued. Many of us are fatigued right now. We're Zoom fatigued. We're no social contact fatigued. We're tired of the news, and then we have the political stuff coming out, and all the divisiveness, and all the things that are happening there, left and right and middle, and again, we just want to like, I just want to focus on this, and that's a good thing. But it's also a bad thing if you're not informed. You can't know what's happening around you if you're not informed. So thank you for sharing that, Ike. Anything else you wanted to add to the conversation before we get move on?
Well, I agree with your comments, Joseph, and I think that it points us and reminds us how, first of all, how fragile our system is, and how connected and interrelated it is. It is very easy for us to believe when we are hunkered down doing what each of us does individually and being concerned with our own family, our own business, our own problems, that those problems and our solutions exist in a bubble. And I think that when we are in a crisis like this, it shows us how connected we all are as Americans, how everything that happens eventually will have a ripple effect that will touch you, whether you think it does on the first day you hear about it or not, and how important it is that we remain united as a country, in pursuing the solutions that will work for everybody. The safety and prosperity that we enjoy in this country, I think, is unheralded in history, but it is fragile, and we need to work together to keep it moving, and we need to find solutions that that will work across the board. Because if we ignore some of these problems that are other people's problems today, they will be our problems tomorrow as well.
Right. Well, thank you for sharing those insights. They're always so telling, and you have your pulse, your finger on the pulse of business across the whole country, and you're seeing big businesses, small businesses, medium-sized businesses struggling with similar but uniquely different challenges. So thank you for sharing that. On my end, and before we get to our guest on my end, our clients are still challenged with consumer confidence. We're finding that people are struggling with the unbalance that uncertainty creates. They're not sure when the next stimulus package is going to come out. They're not sure when customers are going to continue to come back to their businesses in the numbers that they used to come back. They're not sure, is there going to be another wave? Is there going to be something? Everybody's unsure, so they're just kind of putting their head down and doing what they do, trying to do best. And as you know, as we've talked about before, being able to help your customers, your consumers, your patients, your guests, whatever you call them in your business, to feel comfortable about doing business with you, to feel comfortable about spending their money, to feel comfortable about investing in whatever they need to invest in, is a little bit different messaging right now. And if you're not paying attention to that messaging, people don't know that you're aware of it. And so you know, that's one of the things we're dealing with. I know that I'm blessed to be launching my newest book this week. Tomorrow on Wednesday, we're launching The Leader of You. And it's a book. It's only 40 pages, something like that. So it's a short read, accompanied with a digital course, which is really going to be cool because we're going to be able to take the ideas and the concepts from the book and expand them in a digital course, so people actually do something with what they learn. There's nothing worse than learning something new and doing nothing with it. So we want people to learn and implement and execute. Then we have group coaching on the backside of that to help people really implement. So I'm excited about that. It's a whole new journey for my company after almost 4 decades of being in this business, which sounds like forever, and it is. It's amazing that we're now getting to our first digital course. So I'm excited about that. And so there are lots of new things coming on my side of the business. I know we're all on this call today. We're all busier now than we were pre-pandemic. And some of it's because we are pivoted into new things, and people are still wanting to join. You know, my client, Enterprise Bank, last year was their biggest year for registrations for their digital courses that I'm going to be speaking on tomorrow. And their biggest year was 1,500 registrations. This year, as of 2 weeks ago, they had 5,000 people registered for these digital courses. I have over 300 people registered for my course tomorrow, and where by tomorrow it'll probably be 400 people registered. That's a lot of people on a digital Zoom call. I'm excited about that, obviously, but it just tells you that people are hungry for information that's going to move them forward. So that's a great segue to our guest. I have the honor and distinct pleasure of introducing her. She is one of, and I don't say this easily, I don't say this to everybody, she's one of my favorite people because she really is authentic. She really is that authentic with a touch of badass that she says in her social postings. She actually, we engaged about a week ago. She's now going to be helping me to build my personal brand. I thought I had a pretty good personal brand until I started talking to her, and I'm like, gee, I don't even have an answer to that question. And I've been in this business forever. So let me introduce Tisha Marie Pelletier. She is the CEO, the Chief Experience Officer for Tisha Marie Enterprises. And she really focuses on helping people to understand and create a personal brand for themselves and their business. And whether you're an employee or an associate of a larger business, you still need a personal brand because you can get lost in their brand very easily. And why should people do business with you? And that's a question that Tisha asks all the time. Why should people do business with you? What are you all about? What's your message? And so she's an amazing coach, mentor to entrepreneurs and business owners. So without any further ado, I'm going to introduce Tisha Marie Pelletier. How are you, Tish?
I'm good. Thank you, Joseph. And great to meet you too, Ike.
Thank
Great
you.
insight. Thank you for sharing all of that. But yeah, doing well. Thanks for having me.
You're so welcome. So before you get started with some of the questions that we have for you and you're going to bring up, tell us a little bit about your background, your business, and how you got to where you are today.
Sure. Well, I took the entrepreneurial leap back in 2004 and have run marketing companies, event management companies, and masterminds for mom entrepreneurs. And I think, like a lot of us, we may find ourselves tied to that identity of what we do for a living. And I would say that 2015, I like to call it my midlife crisis, but more a midlife awakening. My good friend David puts it that way. And I like that phrase. I like that positive spin.
Yeah.
And it really catapulted me into, okay, I am my own brand, and I have to show up as this brand. And what does that brand look like? And so over the course of the last couple of years, have really gotten more involved in doing things that I love to do. So it's like that whole saying of, if you do something you love, you never work a day in your life. And I'm absolutely living that now because I've identified what I excel at, what my gifts are, and how I can use that for other people. So now Tisha Marie Enterprises is focused on professional speaking as well as business mentoring, and then helping people build their personal brand, not just by coaching them, by actually implementing it with them, which is something that happened as a result of COVID. It was my pivot moment.
Right.
Yeah.
That's amazing, and I can attest. When I first met you at your Social Connect event that my wife brought me to down in Tempe, I was so impressed with the way you engaged your members and those people that had attended that event, mostly because of your energy and your passion and your enthusiasm for connecting people. I thought that was the first thing, but the fact that it was a networking event in some ways. You're there to connect, not hand out business cards. And I love that. And I don't know if you knew this, Ike, but I first came to know Tisha at that event, and then immediately hired her as my MC for our leadership summits, which were scheduled to launch in March of 2020. And we had set them up. I mean, we had done an amazing job of building a team of speakers and the event, and we had an awesome venue, and it was a VIP thing, and we're 200 people live going to attend this event. And we had speakers coming in from all over the country. We were then set to go to Dallas and Chicago and Philly and LA in that same year. Well, guess what? COVID happened and we had to postpone those events. Eventually we'll bring them back. But it was an amazing opportunity to get to meet Tisha and spend more time with her. So in the end, it's a good thing, I guess. I wish we had launched them and ran them and had them under our belt, but that's not what happened. So
well, hopefully you two will be
I'm
able to put
hopeful.
that back live soon.
Yeah,
Yes,
hopefully.
I think so. I think so. Fingers crossed, Joseph. We're still going to make that happen.
Yeah, absolutely. So Tisha, I said I'd like to get right into this because I know people are on time and we try and honor people's time that tune in. I guess a question that I have is, why should everyone have a personal brand?
Well, you touched on this a little bit earlier too, and I said that I think so many of us, including myself, we feel like our title is who we are. It's our identity. But that identity can be taken away at any time. I mean, Ike was mentioning that here are all of these, employees and these businesses that what they were doing is not necessarily what they're going to be doing now. And so when you lead with your personal brand instead of your title, we get an essence of who you are as a person, what drives you, what lights you up, what motivates you, what are your values, what do you believe in. It's all of those things combined, and that's really what you should be leading with. It's like when we go to networking events, for instance, and the first thing out of someone's mouth is, well, I'm a financial planner. I'm like, really? That's the most exciting thing you've got? Really? Okay. And it's hard to pivot from a situation when someone just leads with that, because your mind automatically goes to, well, I know like 5,000 other financial planners, but what makes you you? And I've shared the same thing with you too, Joseph, that when you say I'm a leadership coach, well, the world is full of leadership coaches. So how do you stand out and stop blending in with what everyone is? How do you stand out from the noise? And you can only do that when you know who you are and you put your brand out there, your message, your beliefs out there, because that's ultimately how you're going to attract the people that like you for you. They want to do business because of you. It's not because of what you do. It's because of you.
Yeah, it's interesting because as you've helped me to start that exploration of my brand, we know what we do. I know really well what I do, but that's not the issue that I know. It's how do you communicate that and how do you encapsulate that so people get it and want to engage you, call you, know more. And in this very busy, crazy space we're all living in today, you better be pretty clear about what your brand is.
Yes.
Or you're going to sit there with no phone ringing, nobody responding to your post. And people do this all the time. You see them, they make this post and, oh my gosh, it was an awesome post, but nobody responds to it. Well, why is that? There's got to be a reason.
Or I would say that people post to post and maybe they get a lot of engagement, but it's not the right engagement. So they're not targeting who is it they specifically want to reach. Right. There's such a thing as vanity metrics where I can post and I can get 5,000 views and hundreds of comments, but it's not of substance. It's just a popularity measurement. Of, hey, okay, people really like this. But if they don't get an essence of who you are and then take the next step, which to me, that next step is DMing you, commenting, how do you take that relationship and get it started? Because that's when you start to find the tribe. That's when you can talk more about how you do, what you do, how you do it differently. And that's ultimately how you start to build your business and attract that right audience. So there's kind of two schools of thought. Are you in it just for the likes and the comments, or are you in it because there's a strategy in place of what you're doing?
I love that. I love that. And I wrote down the word vanity metrics, because that is something that, if that's your purpose, you feel good about yourself and get lots of likes. Hey, great. Awesome. But if you're not converting it to business, to opportunities, then what's the point?
Right.
So something you shared with me is the 7 Ps. Can you tell our listeners about the 7 Ps?
Yes. So the 7 Ps, I'm big into making it simple. Like, let's simplify this. Let's talk about how we build a personal brand. And I started thinking about, it's just like laying down the foundation of a house. So many of us jump to the last P, which is presence. And that's where there's a lot of confusion, because you haven't yet done the groundwork of who you are, what you stand for, your passions, all of those things that make up your personal brand. You're just jumping into, I'm just going to throw things at the wall and hopefully they stick. So when I talk about the 7 Ps, it really is in identifying, first off, your purpose. What is that why that drives you? What is that thing that lights you up? Why do you do things? And I had the pleasure of going through the Why Institute about a month ago or so, and really identifying that my why is about contributing. I am big into that. I think you know that, Joseph. I am a big contributor. I'm a big giver type. And so my why is to always authentically show up in the lives of others and make a positive impact. So when you know your why, they always say, when you know your why, the what you do makes such a bigger impact, because now you are ingrained in, this is how I do it. This is how I show up. This is what I'm doing. I'm always going to show up making a positive impact. Now, can you imagine if everything I posted on social media was just negative garbage? You'd be like, who is this girl? Like, she doesn't even know who she is. So when I say that, knowing what your purpose is, and that takes some time to figure out that purpose. The next thing is pillars. I keep it P's because it's easy to remember. But another synonym for that is your core values. What are those beliefs? Because if you're putting out what you believe, then other people that believe that same thing are more easily attracted to you because you're speaking their language. Right. Then the other thing is your passions. And Joseph, we were kind of joking about this. Ike, you might know this, but I learned that Joseph has like this massive cat collection.
I did not know that.
I didn't know that either. See, he's holding back. But your passions play such a big part into who you are. Like, I love the Zumba classes. I love taking long walks and meditating. Like, I love all those things. And when you hide all of that from your brand and you're just about the professionalism and not adding the personal touches, people don't get a sense of who you are as much. So Joseph knows this, but I talk every Friday like clockwork consistently in my car. I drive a Toyota Camry. And I started doing this whole series of convo in my Camry because it's a quiet place for me to reflect on the week or ask a question or, dive into something that was bothering me. And people are like, I love your convo and your Camry series. Like, I love that you love Toyotas. And, it's just people get a really good sense of who you are when you start talking more about like what your passions are and, what you like to do even outside of work. I'm very big into showing my kids, like they're always involved in my life as well.
Yeah.
And then we talk about personality. What does your personality say? Because your personality is how you're going to be showing up in the world. Are you bubbly? Are you high energy? Are you more reserved? Are you, like, what does that say about you? And how are you going to start building this presence? Because it's going to get easier as you go along with, this is how I show up personally, professionally, and publicly. I'm the same person every time you see me. And then we're going to get into, your prospects, which again, who are the people that you really want to be connected to? Who's the tribe? Who's the community? Who are those ideal clients for you? And then taking it a step further, identifying now, once you've niched that down, who is your, what are those products and programs that you provide? You do it better than anybody else. These are the people that you want to attract. And then we get into the last one, which is your presence. So now that you've identified all of these 7 Ps, now what's the strategy? How do you do it? And the strategy can be a number of things. It can be social media, it can be professional speaking, it can be doing things like this, like Zoom calls and webinars. And, but I highly recommend, because we're all moving into that digital platform anyway, that you start putting your presence out there on online media, because it does, introduce you to so many people that you never would have met.
Yeah. It's interesting when you were talking, Tisha, and that's such great stuff, by the way. And I think people can attach themselves to the 7 Ps because they're prompt words that makes them think through those concepts. Forever, I've known people do business with people, not companies.
Mm-hmm.
That's age old. That's way predating social media.
Right.
But you know what? That's exactly what you're talking about. People do business with people, not companies. The brand, I get it. It's whatever the brand is for the company. But who are you in that brand? And why would I want to choose you to do business with? If there was an insurance company or a financial services company and they have 100 or 500 agents, why you?
Why you?
And all of those people under that brand sign, why you? What's so unique about you? And it's funny, at networking meetings, we see this all the time. So what do? I'm in insurance. Oh my gosh. Okay. Oh God, my phone's ringing, and you go, and it's like, really? Because how many insurance agents, how many financial services agents, how many people are there? What do? I sell cars. You need a car? Well, no, that's not the answer. The answer is I put dreams in people's driveways or some other creative thing. My wife's in the mortgage business, and I ask her, so when people say, what do? I'm in the mortgage business, or is it, I help people find the money they need to purchase in commercial, industrial, and residential real estate.
Mm-hmm.
That's different. Oh, really? That's interesting, because now I've captured all 3 segments: commercial, industrial, and or commercial, investment, and residential. People are way more interested. Oh my gosh, really? I was thinking about this or that, and they start talking to her more. So she's so busy. It's crazy right now, but part of it's people want to do business with her because of her brand. So
and if I can offer up a tip on that too, Joseph, when you meet them at networking events and the first thing they lead with is, what do you do? I was given this great tip from another speaking gig I had. And one of the audience members said, when people ask you that, or when they start with what you do and you're listening, then turn it around and say, great, now why do you do it? Why do you do what you do? How did you get into that? Because now you bring them on a tangent of storytelling, and you can get a really good sense of who that person is when they just stop with this is what I do in 3 words.
I like that. And it's proven. It's science and psychology that people love to talk about themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And instead of you going into this dissertation of 3 to 4 or 5 minutes of what you do and everything you do and how you do it and bore them to tears, it's like, no, I'll say, so I'm in this business. What do you do? I always flip it around to what do they do? Because they want to talk about themselves. And I would, as a professional, I would much rather know about what the person does that I'm talking to. So I can then tailor my approach and my presentation to what they need rather than dissertating what I do, and they're not even interested. So that's interesting. Well, I want to keep us on track. And there was another interesting conversation point that you and I had recently, and it was, it was about people struggling with their own personal brand. What is it that causes them to struggle? What are those things that they get stuck on?
Well, I'll tell you from personal experience, when my business coach years ago told me to build a personal brand, as I was sharing with you both that I found myself in my midlife crisis, she suggested, hey, Tisha, why not build a personal brand? Why not build a website and, get your name as the company? And I freaked out. I was like, no, that's not a good idea. I don't like that. I think it's because we're taking a really good look at ourselves and we're having to shine that light on us going, okay, this is who I am. And what if I'm not good enough? And I mean, self-doubt creeps in so much. And I have even grown men going through this personal brand builder challenge that I'm doing. And they're like, this is so uncomfortable. And I'm like, I know. Why is it uncomfortable? Because you can no longer hide. Because you are the brand, you are at the forefront now. And this is who people need to see. And yes, it's going to be uncomfortable. And yes, you're going to be vulnerable. And yes, you're going to be transparent. We're taught to we don't talk about those things.
Right.
We show up as confident as we can be. And that's not always the case. So we're kind of having this struggle with ourselves of, okay, this really is me. And now how do I do that? And for fear of not being judged.
Yeah.
But what I'm going to share is one of my turning points. I think I've shared this with you too, Joseph. I wrote about it in my last book. My biggest turning point, my biggest aha moment was when I had the worst year ever in 2017. I had so many things happen that just I wasn't expecting. I mean, talk about just being in the dumps in that year, and doing something really bold on my birthday and switching on my Facebook Live and doing a live and saying, I'm so grateful for all the connections and the love that I've got, but I've got to be honest with you, my life is anything but perfect. It's a hot mess most of the time. And this year has proven me that it has been, and I really just was very open and honest. And I really struggled a lot with imposter syndrome, which I think is why a lot of people struggle, because they're not quite sure what their identity should be. There's a big disconnect. And the moment that I did that, the moment that I went live and people started accepting that and knowing that I'm just me, I'm not going to pretend to be anybody else but me, it was such a freeing and liberating experience to be that person. And I really think that's what started my journey of getting more and more confident and comfortable with take it or leave it. Not everybody has to like me or love me. This is just, this is me. Yeah. And that was great feeling.
But I think that's one of the things that people love about people. You, me, Ike, anybody, that you're authentic. Mm-hmm. This is who you are. Like it, don't like it, that's who I am. And in this time that we're all living in, of everybody spinning everything and trying to posture everything so it gets the right play, just be who you are. Just say who you are. And that authenticity, that is the word that my wife says two things about you, and she's one of your big fans too, like I am.
Oh, love Terry.
She says everybody loves Tisha. Number one, you should have a show that everybody loves Tisha, but the word that comes from many people that I know that know you, authenticity. You're authentic. This is who you are. Makeup, no makeup, like, don't like, busy, not busy. It's all good, and that endears people, and that's actually what people are looking for today. Be authentic. People I talk to in the social media space, they all say the same thing: be authentic, be who you are. And I think in some ways COVID has helped some people to do that a little bit more. I read a story just recently, real quick, and then we'll go on with this interview. But I read a story about a woman who's a CMO, I believe she was, for a large company, had the nice profile picture on her LinkedIn profile, and about halfway into this pandemic, she's like, you know what, that picture, that's not who I am right now. That picture is me all set to great with the library in the back and all the stuff. Just, this is who I really am. So she took a picture of herself with her kids and hair, almost half not dry, and in a t-shirt, and it went viral because everybody's saying, yeah, that's who I am too. Who I used to be in the corporate boardroom is not who I am today, because I'm trying to get my kids to school and get them lunch and do my Zoom calls and everything. And so people are just aching for authenticity, aching for the truth, aching for a simple path that they can follow that'll take them from here to there. And that's one of the things that you offer. So thank you for the work you're doing. And I'm saying that on a personal basis, but also for the many people that know you and follow you, and the Tisha Talks and Convo and my Camry. And I think, you're not doing the Friday thing anymore, right?
I am with Nate. Yeah,
What
6 months in.
What's that
It's
called?
It's called Casual Convo Friday. So we're always looking for guests to come on, and we shine the spotlight on you so we can talk about what you do, how you do it best, and offer up some value and some tips and tricks. And it's been going well. And as far as the article, Joseph, I believe I sent that to you because I thought it would touch a nerve with you.
Yeah.
And it's very true. It's what I was sharing earlier is, are you the same person publicly, professionally, and personally? So if I meet you in the grocery store, are you the same Joseph that I see that's on social media giving me tips and so forth? And that, I will say, is the one thing that I really strive to be, because it's hard if you see me on social media and then you meet me, and what if I'm just rude to you? What if I just cut you off and I'm like, I don't really have time for you right now?
Yeah.
Like, you're coming to me because something I said or something I did really sparked something in you to then take a step. And then what if you meet me and I'm not the same person? Well, that's a really surefire way to ruin your reputation too.
Yeah. Yeah. I know you've been sitting there nodding your head. What any insights or thoughts or reactions to anything Tisha said to this point?
Well, I mean, the conversation is an important one for every business person and for every business owner in particular. I work with business owners and physicians and executives all over the country. And I will say that the ones who are the most successful in many cases do put time, money, and energy into this issue. There is a sense of intention about this, from a marketing standpoint, from a branding standpoint. As Tisha said, what is your brand? They are visible. They are able to be found. They are presenting information on themselves, their organization, and what they do that helps people differentiate in a crowded marketplace. As Tisha said, there are many coaches, there are many lawyers, there are many financial advisors, right? So what is that differentiating factor? And I'm always surprised to see people who have built a big business through working hard and delivering a good service, but aren't doing a good job at maintaining and protecting that business, its reputation, and its market share by making sure that other people know about it. And this is an old lesson. You can be as cute and smart and hardworking as you want, but if nobody knows about it, who are you helping? Yeah. And so I think that this is important on many levels, and it's especially important when we're in times of economic duress, right? If you and your business and what you do is going to survive and thrive, which is what this show is about, how are you communicating that? And the fact that you must communicate it and you must think about it and be intentional about it is really important. So I'm glad that Tish is here to share these insights with us.
Yeah. It's
right.
it's like the game of golf. It's really simple, but it's not so easy.
Right.
Right. Because there's a lot of moving parts. And if like Tisha said, you just go to the end, here's who I want to present, but you haven't gone through and asked the questions of who is that you're going to present? What are your strengths, your weaknesses, your areas of expertise, your personality, your all the P's, the passion, the products. That's a big question. And Tisha I called Tisha last week, and I've been struggling with my brand of the Performance Group of Arizona. It's been a brand that we built on. I've always been in corporate. As I've shared with people before, my background or my company, we built for over 35 years. was what we call it was under the radar. We were a private label brand. We did our work for big companies, and we wore their logos when we were out in the field. And I had 40 people in my company working for me. We were traveling all over the U.S. and Latin America doing these services and taking care of training and coaching and developing people. But when I asked Tisha last week, Performance Group of Arizona or Joseph Rosales International, what's my brand? Boom. It was no question, Joseph Rosales International, because people want to do business with me, and all the new digital courses and books and stuff that we're producing now, it's got to be under that brand. So soon this will be changed back here to those two logos. And so I'm excited about that. They're working on it now. But I had a couple last questions for you, Tisha, and I know we want to tie up, so how are you helping people build their personal brand?
So one thing that I was doing my R&D, so my research and development in COVID, because I kept getting asked to give speeches on personal branding, which I love. I love it. But I also am like, well, I should create something, some kind of program or, digital product as well. And doing my research, I found that a lot of personal brand strategists and coaches, they're very good at telling you those 7 Ps, for instance, and walking you through, but they're not doing what I think is the most important step, which is implementing. It's implementing, it's putting it into action. And, what I do is I really help entrepreneurs move forward faster. I want to move them forward faster. I want to take that vision out of their head and go. And I understand, being that I walked the talk too, I had to go through this, that the challenge is, well, how do I go? What do I do? Who are those resources that I go to? And because I love project management, I love, being in the trenches, honestly, with people as they're building their brand, I created the Personal Brand Toolkit, where I am walking people through step by step by step. I'm incorporating my team. So if you're like, I have no idea what my color is, I don't know what to wear, I don't know how to dress. So it's so much more about building and boosting someone's confidence with a mentor that's walking alongside them. And I'm finding great success, especially in crowded, saturated markets like real estate, independent financial planning, because those are people who are like, there's so many of us and I don't know how to make a dent in this industry.
Yeah.
And I said, here's the secret. It's you. You are the secret. You are the personal brand that we need to start putting out there, because as people start to really like you and trust you, then they want to know, well, what else do you do, Joseph? Tell me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you might find a need in there. So that's honestly the one thing that I'm really excited about is, as Joseph knows, I was professional speaker. Like I was like, this is what I'm doing, live events, professional speaking, event emceeing, all this. And yeah, it totally was like, fell out the bottom. And so this is a really good chance for me to still be mentoring, but also supporting them by building their brand with them, because I love the creative process. I love when we take someone who's just like, I know what I do what I'm doing. And months later, they've got the photos, the videos, they've grown in confidence, they know their colors, like everything is coming together, websites, everything, which are the essentials.
Yeah.
And you were sharing earlier, so I want to back up. Who needs a personal brand? Every person is a personal brand. Every single person. It doesn't matter if you're in business, you're an employee. I would even say college kids. If you're trying to get into college, do you want social media to portray what your story is and who you are? Or do you want to control the narrative and guide people down the path of, this is who I am, this is what I love, this is how I get involved with my community. Yeah. These are the people that I jive with. Like, do you want to do that, or do you want other people to have that control? And I say, I'd rather have that control.
Absolutely. And employers now are looking at social media as part of their vetting process. So if it's just
they reach you before.
Sure.
Yeah.
Sure. If you're just, if your social media presence is you pounding down shots at the party and running and jumping off somebody's roof into the pool, might not be the best imaging and messaging you want to put out to prospective employers, unless, they're one of those crazy video companies. Right. So, all right. So I think we're coming to the end, and I wanted to ask you though, people out there that need a brand and need help with that, how do they reach out to you?
Sure. Well, they can always reach out to me on my website, tishaMarie.com. There's a place there for a virtual latte with me, which is just to get to know you. But one thing that I'm really excited about launching, Joseph, and I'm planning on doing this continuously, is a personal brand builder challenge. It's a 5-day challenge. It's a lot of value within 5 days, but it's not just us talking at you, it's us actually working with you and laying the groundwork.
Love that.
So that's something that I'm excited about, because it's in a way taking the place of a webinar, but it's chunking it down day by day so that you have the time to catch up, do the assignment, move on to the next. And yeah, so that's something that's coming up in October 12th through the 16th, and then I'll be doing it again, maybe every other month or so.
Awesome. Well, I'm looking forward to participating in that. So I want to personally thank you, and I know Ike feels the same way. Thank you for coming on and sharing this really super important information about personal branding. We will have Tisha's contact information up on a slide at the end of this presentation, as well as Ike's information and how you can contact him. If there's any questions you have about wealth and asset protection or legal matters within his area of expertise, he's happy to engage you on that as well. My information will be there. But we always hope that this time that you've spent with us has been valuable to you, and that we've shed some light on some topic for you that could help you not just survive but thrive in this very challenging environment that we all find ourselves in. And I don't know when it's going to change and how it's going to evolve. Nobody does. But I know that if you're more prepared and you're more informed and you're more diligent in your approach to your business, to your life, you'll have a better outcome. It's that simple. So, Ike, any final words for our listeners?
No, I think you summed it up beautifully. I'm excited about seeing the release of your book tomorrow, and the Leader of You, and your online conference. So it looks like we've got some great help and things available for our friends and viewers, and I'm looking forward to seeing all of them.
Thank you. And Tisha, thank you so much for being on.
Thank you, and you're welcome. My pleasure.
Okay, well, thanks. And so for now, it's Joseph Rosales and Ike Devji. Thank you so much for joining us on Business in the New Normal, and we'll see you next week. Take care. Bye-bye.